Inside us all there lives a darkness, a sense of betrayal, a need for revenge. And for some, it is our constant fight to control it. A fight to control the venom inside.
There were a handful of Marvel comics that I really loved, but the Fantastic Four was my favorite, and particularly the character of Ben Grimm, the Thing. And I said to my brother at the time, you know, if they ever make a Fantastic Four movie, that's my role. I just related to him, you know, rock hard He-Man, you know, with a heart. That's me. I always really liked the idea that they weren't anonymous, that people knew who they were. I liked the fact that they were more accessible as characters, and particularly Ben. Ben was, you know, a blue-collar everyman, and that's kind of my niche, if you will. So I saw a demo of the game, and it was mind-blowing. I'm amazed at how far video games have come. You know, I'm a bit of a gamer. I tend to like the strategy games, but this was unbelievable, intricate, really, really intense detail. So, I mean, this is a game that, I hate to admit it, but at 41, I'll play it, you know, all the time. So you know, I could just see my two little girls and me in there. Like, it's my turn, it's mine.
What are you gonna fight over?
Make mine sunny side up, matchstick. Make mine sunny side up, matchstick. Well, that sucks.
Faster. A little faster. Okay, one more.
Well, that sucks.
All right, fight begins. Reed appears. Reed.
Either one.
Whatever chance go.
Let go of me, Reed.
Now we should also redo You've Done an Awful Feat.
Let go of me, Reed.
Same exertion, so.
Thank you, and then go down to the next. Nice.
If I don't get off this floor and find some help, my friends are done for.
Good.
Look at me. Don't tell me to calm down.
Good read.
It's clobbering time. It's clobbering time.
Love it.
That's funny. Oh my god. Flames, huh? That's appropriate. I had a beagle once. That was little.
That's no little pet.
I had a beagle once. That was little.
Oh, wait a minute.
Perfect.
Dude,
Feels like weight.
They're screaming about how to.
Forget the dads of the movies or television awards, so what? You know, they're gonna get to play the Fantastic Four video game with dad in it. Now I finally became cool. You know, that's like the meter.
I've only done sort of voice-over work to screen, you know, either to a commercial or to my character on the screen. So it was bizarre to be in sort of an isolated sort of booth and try and recreate a character that I haven't actually seen, you know. But of course I've played him in a movie, so a lot of it was replicated in the game, which will be very exciting for the fans, you know, to play actual scenes from the movie.
Dinosaurs? Wonderful. Dinosaurs? Wonderful. I think they're trying to kill us. I think they're trying to kill us.
Good, and try one. I think.
Try a little one like out of breath too, like you've just been,
running.
and chased by robots.
I think they're trying to kill us. Yeah, more.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to kill us. That statue of Horus is emitting strange energy readings.
Good, one more.
That statue of Horus is emitting strange energy readings. Use your shield to reflect the blasts at the statue. Use your shields to reflect the blasts at the statue. It's vulnerable.
Yes, it is.
It's vulnerable. Attack. It's vulnerable. Attack. Good work, team.
Bring it down just a tad.
Okay. Good work, team.
The story of the movie, he conducts an experiment in space and it goes horribly wrong, and he develops these superpowers, as do all the other characters in the movie, and he becomes Mr. Fantastic, and his special powers are the capability to stretch any part of his body, his whole torso, his arms, his legs. So it's a pretty cool superpower to have. And as an actor preparing for this part, I just had to open my imagination really, because all of the special effects, you know, i.e. my arm stretching, is going to be done afterwards. So I was continually during the project having my arm tied behind my back and sort of imagining my arm elongating and sort of starting one shot, just my legs, as if I was jumping to the other side of the street or something, and then picking it up on a separate shot and me coming into frame as if I've stretched along the street. So it was just leaving everything to the power of the imagination, really. I must admit, it's very, very exciting. Having played video games as a child, it's now very exciting to be, and a very strange concept to be, you know, a superhero up on the big movie screen, and be a superhero in a video game, you know, and playing myself, and it'll be my own voice and everything. It's very strange and very exciting.
I have worked on a bunch of Marvel movies as a screenwriter, so, and I actually am friendly with people at Activision, so they had been looking for years for something for me to work on, and since I was intimately involved with the Fantastic Four on the studio productions side, and since I'm a kind of an avid gamer anyway, they asked me if I would help coordinate the writing of the script for the video game.
I got involved through Zach Penn, actually. We are old friends and writers, and we've worked together on a few different projects. I did some writer's assistant work for him many years ago on some movies, Inspector Gadget, some Small Soldiers, and a few other things. The thing what Zach and I did mostly together was play video games. And we're both geeks, and we just, you know, grew up from the Atari 2600. When this project came around, Zach had done work for Marvel on some of their other movies. And when they called him to work on the Fantastic Four game script, because he had also done a draft of the Fantastic Four movie, he called me up and said, hey, this would be fun. We've been talking about trying to do a video game together for a while. And so now there's been this sort of industry shift to open up opportunities for Hollywood movie writers to work more on video games and vice versa. So the synergy happened that Zach and I were brought on board by Activision to adapt the movie into the game.
The movie script was the model for the game. I mean, first of all, to be fair, you know, Marty and I came in to help something that had already been, you know, quite a bit of it had already been laid out when we came in. Our job was to say, take all these pieces, take all these different levels and try to turn them into a coherent story, and then also to try to match it up with the movie. And one of the things that's difficult about that is that the movie was being rewritten while we were doing this. So, you know, part of my job was to go get pages from the studio and say, hey, you know, is it Dr. Doom, or is it Von Doom, or is it Van Damme? What's his name now? You know, or is this scene staying in? Is Brooklyn going out? I mean, there were a number of scenes that actually I think end up getting cut from the movie that are still in the video game that are, I think, a lot of people's favorite scenes.
And we're both fans of the comic book, but we knew the directive was to do a movie game. But one of the ways that you can open up a game and make it bigger and a different experience for the player slash fan from the movie is to incorporate some of the old comic book elements. Thus, some of the supervillains and some of the level arenas type that you get into are famous locations and or villains from the comic book that you won't see in the movie. Because the movie is an origin movie, and so therefore is somewhat limited in what it can do. There's only Dr. Doom is the only villain, and it sort of explains to people who are new to the series where the Fantastic Four came from. But a game player, hopefully most of them would love the comic and know the characters, and that's why you'd buy the game. So we were able to take you to their various locations and worlds, and you're able to meet some of their famous arch nemesis like Puppet Master and Annihilus and Diablo, and they're fun. And also, and you know, part of video games is always the boss fight, where you come to the end of the level and there's a big guy there and you've got to figure out a way to smash him. And well, of course, Marvel, this is, you know, these characters are the best boss fights ever. This is where the whole boss fight concept came from, is Stan Lee and his work in the 60s. So there you go. So we have these scenes where not only do you, the overarching story of the game, you're trying to stop Dr. Doom and destroy his army of Doombots while trying to cure Ben, but then you're also fighting, you know, Diablo, and Blastar is in there, and Puppet Master comes in and messes with this crazy Egyptian museum. One of the fun Marvel characters that Zach was a big fan of, that he had actually tried to work into X-Men 2, was Nick Fury. And Fox passed on putting Nick Fury into X-Men 2, but we brought him back for Fantastic Four. What was also interesting about this project is that the movie was finally greenlit, and the script that we read of the movie was not the script that they had originally started working on the game, because the game cycle takes so much longer. So we had no idea how that worked. So basically we came in and they said, well, here's the movie story and here's the game story, and we have 5 of our 10 levels, but we need you to make 5 levels that match the movie, but somehow make a story that involves these other levels, which used to be in the script, but they're not. So what happened was that Zach and I really did, I think, come up with some fun ideas based on the script, and also twists to add to the levels that they had here to make them conform with the characters in the movie.
Doing the voiceover for the Fantastic Four video game was a lot of fun. It's a completely different experience than playing the part in the movie. You really have to nail the feeling and emotion of the lines with only your voice, which is an interesting challenge. The thing gamers are really going to like about the game is the ability to relive movie experiences and go beyond by playing as all the Fantastic Four superheroes. They can do things like, you know, they can control fire, they can go invisible, squeeze into really tight spaces, bust through walls. Gamers are really going to like playing superheroes like Johnny Storm because they'll be able to bend flame at will and ward off enemies and create huge supernova fireballs.
Who is this guy anyway?
Yeah.
Wait!
Just a little pause where the comment ends. Ben.
What a ride! Okay, where's the doorknob?
And a little clarity. Where's the door?
Okay, where's the doorknob? Okay, where's the doorknob? Look at all the shiny robots. Time to turn up the heat. Full blast! Look at all the shiny robots. Time to turn up the heat. Full blast! Look at all the shiny robots. Time to turn up the heat. Full blast! I'm okay! Weirdly, I'm okay.
Great, one more time.
Wait, I'm okay! Weirdly, I'm okay. Wait, I'm okay! Weirdly, I'm okay. Have no fear. The human torch is here.
I feel better already. Johnny mumbling.
I feel better already. I feel better already. Hey, Rockhead, less talking, more punching. Sure, Victor is rich and handsome, but can he bend himself into a pretzel? Sure, Victor is rich and handsome, but can he bend himself into a pretzel? Dang, you really got ugly. Dang, you really got ugly.
One more like that.
Dang, you really got ugly. How'd you do that?
Good, even more impressive.
That was sweet. How'd you do that?
A little pause between sweet and impressive.
That was sweet. How'd you do that? Sweet. It's hero time. Flame all the way on. Sweet. It's hero time. Flame all the way on.
A bit more excited because you're ready to jump in there and rumble.
Time to kick some butt. Time to kick some butt. I can't tell you how psyched I am to be in the Fantastic Four video game. I've been a gamer for years, so being able to see and hear myself in the game is going to be amazing.
What's really cool about the Fantastic Four video game is the player can actually be any one of the Fantastic Four. Unfortunately, I only got to play Sue, but it would have been great to fly around like Johnny, or stretch like Reed, or become the Thing and muscle everyone around, or Doom, which is probably all of our favorite character, because he's just, first of all, the biggest badass in the world, and he electrocutes everyone. The action in the game is great, I mean, for my character especially, because she can not only go invisible, she can put up force fields and she uses telekinetic powers, you know, depending on what situation she's in. So I can sneak by people, I can pop up at the last minute, and then I could also sort of control things with force fields, which is my favorite thing that Sue does. So it's, you know, it's kind of a dream come true to actually be in a video game.
One just a little quicker. This should knock those.
This should knock those jerks on their butts.
Perfect. One more like that.
This should knock those jerks on their butts. We made it. We made it. Our air supply is limited. We have to move fast. Let's just get those shields and get out of here. Let's just get those shields and get out of here. Same plan.
What's your P?
Same plan. Same plan.
Good. What happened to us? One more.
Look, another elevator. Look, another elevator.
Get over to it when it's even.
Get over to it when it's even. Johnny calls out another elevator.
Same plan. We can't hold them off forever.
Perfect. Next time.
There's only one brake left. We have to protect it. There's only one brake left. We have to protect it. Yes, Reed, we're on Dragon Man's tail, literally. It's not pretty. Yes, Reed, we're on Dragon Man's tail, literally. It's not pretty.
Not pretty. You should see the last one.
Who? Who?
Never mind. I'm inside the security center. As soon as I access the mainframe, head for the service elevator.
Roger that. Roger that.
Perfect.
It's incredibly exciting to be part of both the game and the movie. It feels like a complete package, like the right marriage to be part of both. It's sort of surreal to see someone and also to play myself and control myself. So yeah, it's really cool to be part of both, and seeing, you know, my face and my body and all the movements in a virtual me is very cool. So I love being part of this.
When we wrote the script to try and mimic the comic books as well as the movie, there were still changes that the actors themselves brought to the character, and little touches and how they would behave or act. And mainly we wanted the characters in the game to feel like the characters in the movie. So often in the voiceover sessions when we were directing them, they'd say, well, I wouldn't say that, you know, or that doesn't sound like me. And so then we would rewrite on the fly. Specifically, Jessica was the most, you know, had the most particular notes about her character, because I think Sue in our version was a lot more wisecracking, and she was very adamant about Sue Storm being the Invisible Woman, not the Invisible Girl, and that she also was a librarian and was a scientist and was very smart and reserved. So we ended up pulling back some of her dialogue to kind of match that.
It's much more like working in TV or working in animation. I mean, just because I've worked in animation before, it's so much more fluid. You know, you'll come in and they'll say, hey, look, we couldn't get that right, but look at this great Nova effect that we got on Johnny. Can we reorient this to fit that? And you're like, oh, great, okay, let's rewrite the scene so that it fits that. Or, you know, this level isn't working and this level is working great, so can we flip-flop, you know, where they go in the order of them? I mean, that's actually a very important thing, is how the levels progress and which level is harder and which is easier. None of that comes into play when you're writing a movie. Like, you don't have that luxury, nor do you have that problem to deal with. It is really a lot more complicated to write a video game than it is to write a screenplay. They were the directors of this movie. We were not, you know, like, I mean, it's more what we did to help enhance what they were doing. I mean, even the story fundamentally is coming out of the people who are designing the levels and who are designing the overall look of the game and designing the way it plays. We were more like there to help than we are, you know, the kind of puppet masters, no pun intended, of the project.
After Zach and I had sort of written the first draft of the script and the outline, and then he went off to write the next X-Men movie, I came in and was sort of in-house in the building with Seven, a lot of the developers and the designers themselves, the guys who programmed the levels. And I spent a lot of time face-to-face with them and trying to getting their feel for the story. And they're also big fans of the comic, so their input was important. And if there were certain things that we had Ben or Sue say that didn't feel right, they were good arbiters of that as well.
It's really very exciting to be in both the Fantastic Four movie and obviously to be in the video game. I'm a huge video game kind of freak myself, but it's going to be very strange seeing myself in a video game, and quite surreal. It's, you know, my face, my body, and it's very like us. Trust me, the scanning they did for this thing is quite extraordinary. Victor Von Doom, otherwise known as Dr. Doom, was an extraordinary character for me to play, actually, for so many different reasons. Obviously, he's the evil genius who has a long history with the Fantastic Four, and is the one who plans the hopeful and eventual downfall of the Fantastic Four. But you know, for me, the part was totally different from any part that I've ever played before, and that's always, as an actor, a good thing. Playing a character that is so deeply rooted in the history of the Fantastic Four is firstly a great honor for me, because I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan myself, and I have been of the cartoons and of the comic book since as far as I can remember. So to be able to play Victor Von Doom was really just quite amazing, even if he is a bad guy. Doing voiceover for the Fantastic Four was for the Fantastic Four video game was really quite fascinating. The focus is on, you know, how to speak and the intonation of my voice, which is very different from having to focus on what I do on film or TV, so it's been quite an experience.
We need to know more right now. We need to know more right now.
All those are great. Thank you. Reed's answer to you is no.
Von Doom Industries is proud to be endowing this magnificent new Egyptian wing. Von Doom Industries is proud to be endowing this magnificent new Egyptian wing. Von Doom Industries is proud to be endowing this magnificent new Egyptian wing. What's this? Another one of Reed Richards' cosmic failures? What's this? Another one of Reed Richards' cosmic failures? What's this? Another one of Reed Richards' cosmic failures?
Sue could have been killed. What were you thinking? Sue could have been killed. What were you thinking?
Sue could have been killed. What were you thinking? Come at me again, Richards. Do your worst.
It's over, Victor.
The Fantastic Four video game is really, it really puts gamers in the middle of the action and allows them to live the life and become the Fantastic Four, which sets it apart from other video games. Really, it's like the movie coming to life, and gamers can jump in and take control whenever they want. It's I mean, you know, go buy this one. It's gonna be good. Now I hope I get a free one of these like games, right?
You can have as many as you want.
Good, good.
Well, my publisher had learned that DC Comics, which was then called National Comics, had a book called The Justice League, and it was selling very well. And it was made up of a number of superheroes. So he said to me, Stan, why don't you come up with a book with a team of superheroes? And I really didn't want to do the same old thing with guys who just wear costumes and masks and have secret identities, and the girl is always a token girl who has to be rescued all the time. In fact, at that time, I really wanted to quit, because I had been doing these comics for about 20 years, and I had the same instructions from my publisher all the time. Don't use words of more than 2 syllables. Don't play up too much dialogue. The readers get bored reading dialogue. And so I felt I was just writing one-dimensional stories. And my wife said to me, you know, Stan, if you want to quit anyway, why don't you do the next book you do the way you want to do it, just for fun? The worst that happens is you'll be fired and you want to quit, so what's the big deal? And luckily, that was when he asked me to do this team of superheroes. So I thought, how can I make them a little different than what had gone before? 1, no secret identity. 2, the girl is going to be as much a valuable member of the team as the other 3 guys. 3, instead of the heroine not knowing that the hero is really a hero, you know, the Clark Kent, Lois Lane syndrome, I'll let them be engaged. They know each other and they know what they do, and that's it. And instead of the typical teenage sidekick, I'll get a younger member, but I'll let him be the brother of the girl. So after the girl and the guy get married, he'll be the brother-in-law. So it'll be a little family. And I felt at least that'll make it realistic. Then to continue, I felt Reed Richards will be the hero. Reed Richards, or Mr. Fantastic, as he modestly called himself. I don't want him to be the typical square-jawed hero who says, let's go get him. But I thought I'd make him a little bit more like me, something of a bore. He talks too much. He uses whatever big words he can think of. And I'll have fun with that, because the other members will always say, will you shut up? Can't you explain anything in a simple way? And I thought I'd have them talk to each other like real people do. Then I needed a 4th member who I wanted to be totally different, a guy who's really strong. But I thought, what if he's half monster? What if he could supply a lot of the humor and also a lot of the pathos? And I don't know, I think really, I don't know how I came up with the idea, but I'm so glad I did, because I love the thing. I think he's one of the best characters I ever came up with. As you can probably tell, the main objective was to try to make them as close to real human beings who might have possessed superpowers as I could. my all-time favorite Fantastic Four villain. In fact, maybe my all-time favorite villain is Dr. Doom. One of the things I loved about him, I made him the king of his own country, Latveria. And I was so proud of making up the name Latveria because it sounds like a real country. The thing I liked about Dr. Doom, by being a king, he could commit a crime in this country, but he had diplomatic immunity, so you couldn't arrest him. And also, if you think about it very deeply and clearly, what was it Dr. Doom wanted? He wanted to rule the world, right? Well, you could be a litter bug. You could throw a wad of gum on the sidewalk, and a policeman might come over and give you a citation. Or you could be a jaywalker, and you'd get a ticket. But you could walk up to any cop, and you could say, "Officer, I'd like to rule the world." It's not a crime. There's nothing he could do. So Dr. Doom was a very unique criminal. And I like the fact that I tried to give him his own sense of nobility and honor. In fact, I forget which story it was. There was one story where the FF were fighting him as usual. And he said to them, or to Reed, "Look, if you do thus and such, I'll set Sue free, or I'll let you go," or I don't remember the details. But the other three said, "Hey, you're not gonna take him at his word, are you?" That was the thing. And Reed said, "No, despite all his other faults, he's a man of honor. He'll keep his word." And again, I don't remember the exact words, but I kind of like doing a villain like that. He might be the most evil guy in the world, but he's not gonna lie to you. And again, a lot of credit goes to Jack Kirby. All I did was describe what I wanted and how I wanted him to act and be. But when Jack drew him, you couldn't get a better looking villain than Dr. Doom, with that little cowl over him and the armor. And Jack always used to say, "Stan, the reason he concealed his face is because he basically looked like you." Jack and I sometimes had a relationship like the Thing and the Human Torch. I had fun writing all of them. I just loved every one. You know, there are some that come to mind. There was one called, I think, This Man, This Monster, where somebody managed to impersonate the Thing or take over his identity. He was a villain. But in the end, he turned good and he saved the Thing's life, or the Thing saved his life. I don't remember exactly, but the fella died at the end, but he died heroically. And it was the kind of story that kind of left a lump in your throat, you know. I always liked that, and the fans loved it. I got a lot of mail from that. Another one that I liked was The Wedding of Sue and Reed, because Jack and I put ourselves in the story at the end, and we had fun with it. At the very end of the story, Jack drew himself and me as characters trying to get into the wedding, and we weren't admitted because we didn't have an invitation. And I thought that was kind of funny.
The story of Fantastic Four mirrors the origin of the Fantastic Four, and it also mirrors, obviously, the movie, which is coming out. So it was really an exciting time for us because we were able to both recreate some of the beginnings of the Fantastic Four, their origins that really came from the comic books originally, follows it fairly closely, but also get into what they're doing with the movie. The Fantastic Four is made up of, obviously, 4 characters. You have Reed Richards, who is the sort of the parental, he's the dad of the family in a lot of ways. He's, you know, sort of quiet, scientific, very reserved. He has a relationship with Sue Storm, who is the sister of Johnny Storm. So there's a brother and sister. They have their sibling rivalry going on. Johnny, obviously, is the flame guy. He's a hothead. He loves fast cars and women, and so he's obviously very interesting to a lot of people. And then you have Ben Grimm, who is the sort of the solid, stoic type, and really like the good guy. The really tragic story when he turns into his rock self, and he also has a crush on Sue, and he's longtime friends with Reed.
We started with the story. We used the movie as inspiration to springboard off of all the comic books as well. We were really able to do that because of the way we pull many heroes into all the levels.
Probably the most famous from the very beginning is Mole Man, and he has a mole creature that he brings up out of the ground in New York City. That's actually the cover for the very first issue of Fantastic Four.
We have a interesting cameo then by Puppet Master, who then becomes a key character in one of the missions throughout the game. He's Alicia Master's father or stepfather. And that provides a lot of the players with some of the rich content with the history of Puppet Master with Fantastic Four.
We brought in Diablo, Mole Man, Annihilus, Doom, Blastar. We brought in a ton of F4 villains, including their subservient minions.
A lot of the classic villains, we brought them back and redesigned them, which was a lot of fun to go and look at the old 70s and 60s outfits that are just spandex and crazy things coming off their head. And look and see what we can do to make it more modern.
The origins of the Fantastic Four, they started as normal people, but they went out into space and got bombarded with cosmic energy, and they started transforming in their own unique way. The way that the game starts actually is you start as you're discovering the power.
All of the players' powers combined. Sue can freeze guys and Johnny can fireball them, or there's certain monsters where Sue will have to freeze their hands down or Johnny have to light them on fire to expose vulnerabilities. Also, the way the teammates interact is they also buff one another, so Sue can put a force shield to protect someone, or Johnny can put a ring of fire around them. Ben can call a shockwave to knock guys back around someone. Reed can heal other players. They also, all their combos interact with each other and combine into points and modifiers that help you advance throughout the game.
Adapting a comic book to a movie or a video game is really no different than adapting a novel to a movie or a video game if you were to do that. Actually, it's easier because in the comic book, you've already established the look of whatever the property is. And all you have to do, in the comic book, the characters don't move. Steven Spielberg said to me a long time ago, I'm quite a name dropper, but he said to me, Stan, you and I do pretty much the same thing, except my pictures move. And I always remember that. In a comic book, the pictures just lie there. So if you're doing a video game, you take those pictures and you use that as the basis. That's the start. That's the storyboard for your show. But then you've got to animate them. And that's fun. And that's, I think, where the excitement comes in. The same as a movie. When the movie adapted the Fantastic Four comic book, they looked at the pictures, they got the look of what the characters were like, what the settings were like, but then they created their own settings, but based on what they had seen, so that they had the same feeling, but still everything was original and was new. Of course, I don't know if you've thought of this, but it's quite an experience by playing a video game, to be able to become one of the characters that you actually created years ago. I mean, if I play the Fantastic Four game, I can be the Thing. I can be the Human Torch or Reed. Hey, I could even be Sue. So, I mean, that's something that nobody could have done years ago. Look at that, it's scaring everybody away. Except that one stupid little guy who chased him.
You got him?
Where are those? Are you making those explosions?
Oh yeah, that's when the guys blew up with them. So let's run this way. Let's run this way.
Man, I'm good at this. Well, I don't want him to fight. Well, where are the bad guys?
This way, let's go. Okay. Right
Find me a bad guy.
Right here. Let's follow the blue guys. Read here. Let's go. Here they are.
Oh, there we go. Okay, watch out, bad guy. We're gonna get you.
Hit that O button.
Go to you and hit which button?
The O one again.
Okay, I'm gonna go to you. There, there's the O button. Hey, what are you doing? That's a funny thing, Excelsior. I used to write this column in all of the Marvel comics called Stan's Soapbox. And I also wrote a page called the Bullpen Bulletins page where I'd give news items about what we're doing and I just rapping with the readers. And I would end all the columns, I signed Stan, and you don't want to just say Stan, and you don't want to say yours truly or sincerely yours, it sounds so stiff. So I'd end by saying hang loose, or face front, or enough said. Didn't matter what I signed those columns with, I noticed that the competition started using those expressions in their books. And I said to myself, I've got to think of something that they won't copy because one, they wouldn't know how to spell it, and two, they'd never know what it means. So I came up with the word Excelsior, which means upward and onward to greater glory. Oh, I would like to think if you spend enough time creating characters and you make them as realistic as possible, then it isn't too easy to improve on them. And the only reason you want to change a character is to improve on it. You know, and you could think of so many classic characters like Sherlock Holmes. No matter how they try to do Sherlock Holmes differently, the old Sherlock Holmes is the best one. And the same with Tarzan. There's no way you can improve on Tarzan living in that jungle with the apes and with Jane and so forth. So I would like to think that the Fantastic Four were just well structured. And of course, the way they were drawn by Jack Kirby, the artist I collaborated with, and I like to refer to him as the co-creator of the Fantastic Four, because without him, and without that magnificent artwork of his, I don't think it wouldn't have been the same thing. He brought those characters to life visually. And he was very consistent. In his drawings, he gave them the personality they had. And whether it was the second issue or the 100th issue, he never varied them. They were always the same characters. So I think that Jack helped me to build such a solid foundation for these characters that it was just tough to change them as the issues went on. I think that we had the characters from the beginning. The only one that I think went through a little bit of a change was the Thing. As the issues went on, and I don't remember which one, maybe by the 5th issue or the 6th or the 4th something, we had him solid. But the first 2 or 3 issues, Jack was feeling his way with the Thing also. And it didn't take him long though. But Reed was always Reed and Sue was Sue and Johnny. They didn't vary as the series went on, not when Jack was doing them. You know, it's very strange when you do a movie adaptation or a game, a video game adaptation of something that was created 40 years ago. You can't do it exactly the same because it'll seem old-fashioned. Now, for example, when the Fantastic Four went up into space, the idea was that Reed Richards wanted to be the first one to reach the moon. Well, we've already reached the moon. So they had to make it a little bit different. And he and the other 3 were in one little ship. But of course, in the movie and in the game, it's a ship with another booster rocket and all that, and they go from one to the other. So you try to tell the story as closely as possible to the way it had been done originally, but you've got to make so many little changes to make it contemporary and to make it relevant to the people who are watching today. I think that the movie and the video game have done a wonderful job of making the FF belong to today's era without losing the feeling of what it had 40 years ago. Probably the best example is Sue's hairdo. She had a hairdo of the 60s. When we created her, Jack drew her wearing her hair the way women did then. Today, in the movie and in the video game, she looks like a girl of today. Now, that doesn't mean it's not faithful to the Fantastic Four. It's still the Fantastic Four. She's still Sue, but years ago she was very stylish. Today she's very stylish, but styles have changed. So the artists and the designers did a wonderful job by changing her the way they did. And people often ask me, well, aren't you offended or upset when that happens? And absolutely not, because it just shows that the people doing today's versions care about the product and they want to make it belong to the era that it's in.
My favorite character sort of depends on my mood, to be honest. If I'm really angry and upset, I like to be Ben Grimm. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Sue. Not just because I like Jessica Alba either.
I like Sue the best probably. She has the most unique abilities and she has the most emergent gameplay. You can freeze guys and sneak up behind them and kill them with one-shot stealth kills. You can obviously sneak through environments. Her unlockable combos, use a lot of different force powers. She creates blades of energy. She does a lot of spin kicks. She's more karate style, faster.
My favorite F4 hero is probably Reed, because he can do some pretty amazing things, like stretching, of course, but he can stretch every part of his body, which everybody always makes a good joke about.
You pool lives and cosmics, and everything's a big pool, so it really encourages team play between you and your friend. If you don't know your friend so well, you probably have a harder time with this game. My favorite level is probably the Underground. It's the first time in the game where we really get to dive into offshoot from the movie. We're able to explore a little bit outside of the movie universe, more into the Marvel universe, and show Mole Man, his minions, and more fantastical powers.
Well, some of the interesting interactions that we had between the film and the game actually were early on when we were doing the flame for Johnny. We actually took some of our early versions up to the movie set when we were doing it. And we had conversations, our artists had conversations with their artists as far as how they were developing the technology, the particle effects for Johnny. And they looked at what we were doing and we looked at what they were doing. We actually were able to learn from each other and come up with something that was even more interesting for both of us. The game takes the movie at its core as a sort of a framework. And then because in the movie it's an origin story, there's a lot of character development, we actually end up taking a lot more from the fiction of the comic books, the original story, and adding into that. We had tremendous access to the film and to the set and to all the aspects of the film that were really going to help us. We were able to go send our artists up there, and we had people that were taking pictures of little props. And one of the things I actually really love about the game is that you'll see little details. If you pay attention when you see the movie, like the logos, little aspects of the space station that you'll say, hey, I've seen that, and then you'll see it in the game. Because we had such good access to the sets, we were able to see the blueprints, all kinds of things like that. And we were able to even have communication with the effects people so we can see how they're doing some of their special effects and kind of integrate that into our process as well.
They flew me up to the set. I was able to take pictures. I got to meet many of the principal cast, talk with the director. Marvel was really helpful with giving us materials and sketches and movies and before they were released to anyone, and we were able to really study that and bring it into the game. What's really unique about our game is we took the story and just fleshed it out even more, and we went into the areas of the story in the movie you won't quite be able to see.
Most of the people on the team were already fans of comic books when they got into it. So there was a little bit of research that needed to be done, but most of it we really knew, especially the current generation of the Fantastic Four comic books. A lot of the research we had to do was to go back to the very original ones, and that actually was really fun.
Yeah, we have a huge library of comic books here, all the originals, the big tomes. We went way back into the old days with the sort of the 60s mentality and the different ways they treated people, and now into the more modern comics, which are a little more sexy and a little more colorful, a little more action oriented. And we were able to we have some people on our team that just have grown up loving the Fantastic Four.
No, they're all my favorites. I love Reed because he was so boring and so serious, and yet he was there in a pinch. You know, he was a true hero. Obviously, I love The Thing. I mean, he's got to be my favorite, I guess. But I love Johnny. I love the Human Torch, and I love the fact that he was always pulling tricks on The Thing, and he was always really not wanting to be a big hero. If only he could have been out with his girlfriends, he'd have had a better time. And Sue was great because she was as brave, as courageous, had as much power. That force field of hers saved them so often, and the fact that she could turn invisible, and I love that. I loved them all, but I guess The Thing was my favorite. I'm the smart one now.
Yeah, I'm the dumb one.
Hey, don't call my thing dumb. Here we go. Jump. I can jump. Watch me have him jump over there. Jump! This is fun. Jump!
There we go. A giant spider to fight.
Oh, okay. Now let's get that. Do you want to handle him first, and I'll be back up for you?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll cover you from here.
All right. I'm going to hit somebody. Yeah, I'm hitting him hard. Who am I hitting hard?
You're hitting that tree.
Well, boy, that tree isn't going to mess with us anymore. All right, back we go. Oh, now you had The Thing jump.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, why does he jump further than Reed? You picked the better character.
He's got bigger leg muscles.
That's the Hulk. Oh, well, he does too. You know, I wouldn't know which to choose. There are so many comic book superpowers. The first thing, of course, that comes to mind is strength, and then maybe speed, and maybe mental telepathy or telekinesis. I mean, how do you know which is the best? Maybe the one I'd pick would be immortality. Probably to a young kid, the first thing you'd think of would be, I want to be strong. Maybe as you get older, you say, I'd like to be as smart as Reed Richards. And maybe at some point you say, oh, if I could only fly through the air like the Human Torch. So it depends on what stage of life you're in.